Halo, selamat pagi Bapak Ibu sekalian yang saya hormati. Webinar kali ini kita akan mulai pukul 10 waktu Indonesia Barat. Cuma kita akan tunggu kurang lebih 5 menit ke depan ya Bapak Ibu sekalian, karena masih ada beberapa peserta yang segera join. Mohon bisa ditunggu 5 menit ke depan ya Bapak Ibu sekalian. Terima kasih. Halo, selamat pagi Bapak Ibu sekalian yang saya hormati. Waktunya kita udah pukul 10:05. Segera saja kita mulai acara kita pagi ini ya. Selamat datang dan terima kasih banyak yang sudah menyempatkan waktunya untuk join pada event webinar PCMan kali ini. Nah, ini kita dengan tema Increase Your Application Performance to Facing New Nomal Business. Event webinar kali ini cukup spesial ya. Nah, kita langsung menghadirkan prinsipal langsung dari CAM. Perkenalkan, saya di sini sebagai produk spesialis dari CAM, Ahmad Suharno, dari PCMan. Oke, selamat datang juga untuk Bapak Andri Christian ya, selaku Sales Manager CAM Indonesia. Halo, selamat pagi Pak Andri.
Selamat pagi Pak.
Oke, selamat datang juga. Welcome to Miss Kay sebagai Marketing Manager Asia Pacific. Halo, say hello Miss Kay.
Hello, how are you?
Oke, selamat datang juga buat Mr. Frank Yu. Welcome to Mr. Frank Yu as Principal Application Experience Architect at CAM ya. Hello, say hello Mr. Frank Yu.
Good morning everybody. Hello.
Oke, good morning everybody ya. Oke, Bapak Ibu sekalian, kali ini kita mau menghadirkan langsung dari Principal CAM ya. Nanti jangan khawatir untuk kita emang dari sekarang menggunakan language-nya Inggris, tapi nanti kita ada moderator langsung ya dari Bapak Andri Christian, nanti yang akan memandu acara ini dan lebih ekspresif tentunya. Oke, sebelum dimulai saya akan bacakan beberapa informasi terkait peraturan webinar kita ya, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Ya, mohon Bapak Ibu sekalian untuk turn off kamera and mikrofon juga selama sesi webinar berlangsung ya. Terus nanti jika Bapak Ibu sekalian ada pertanyaan, silakan pertanyaan di melalui chat room ya, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Nanti bisa tulis nama. Jika Bapak Ibu sekali pengen lebih jelas, silakan open mic untuk menyampaikan pertanyaannya, baik pakai bahasa Indonesia maupun bahasa Inggris tidak apa-apa. Oke, cukup jelas ya Bapak Ibu sekalian. Nextnya buat Bapak Ibu sekalian nanti jangan lupa untuk mengisi feedback formnya ya. Nah, seperti yang ada di layar Bapak Ibu sekalian, feedback form sudah tersedia. Jangan lupa nanti untuk diisi dan untuk mendapatkan rekaman webinar dan materi presentasi kita dalam sesi ini. Oke, nanti Bapak Ibu sekalian yang aktif dalam sesi ini, nanti kita juga ada merchandise menarik nih ya buat Bapak Ibu sekalian. Jadi jangan ragu-ragu bila ada pertanyaan, bila ada yang kurang jelas, silakan ditanyakan aja lewat chat room-nya ya. Oke, Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita akan persilakan kepada Bapak Andri Christian ya untuk memberikan sambutan dan seputar camp. Silakan Bapak Andri Christian ya. Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Soeharno. Halo, selamat
Oke.
pagi. Ya, terima kasih telah hadir ke acara webinar ini dan terima kasih untuk PCMan sudah mengadakan event ini. Dan di sini saya sebagai perwakilan untuk camp di Indonesia, saya senang sekali bisa menyapa Bapak Ibu yang hadir di sini dan kiranya melalui webinar ini, melalui presentasi yang nanti disampaikan oleh Frank, itu akan sedikit banyak membantu bagaimana kita atau bagaimana camp bisa membantu ibaratnya meningkatkan performa dari aplikasi yang ada atau yang digunakan oleh Bapak Ibu sekalian untuk menghadapi katakan new normal business yang ada sekarang. Nah, di sini adalah saya rasa Frank sendiri adalah orang yang tepat untuk menyampaikan hal ini. Beliau sebagai Principal Application Experience Architect di camp. Dan jika Bapak Ibu, balik lagi jika Bapak Ibu ada pertanyaan, semisal itu entah itu dalam Inggris atau dalam Indonesia sendiri, disampaikan saja langsung, nanti saya akan bantu untuk interpret ke Frank Yu. Ya, untuk mempersingkat waktu, rasanya kita bisa mulai saja. Oke, Frank Yu, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. And I appreciate everything that you said. I didn't understand everything, but I know you talked a lot about what we do at camp, and helping with the translation skills, absolutely, which is obviously going to be important for me in this for this presentation. So let me share my screen here and let me pull up my presentation. So now everybody should see my title slide. And the title of this presentation, Increase Your Application Performance to Facing New Normal Business Model. And this is a topic that I would never have thought about talking about until this year. Because, as you know, there's been a lot of changes, and over the years, and I've been in the IT industry for almost 30 years. And what I like about the IT industry, that it's always changing, it's always evolving. There's new technologies, there's new architecture, so it always challenges me, and I love that. But this year has been very different from all these other years, and it's going to continue to impact us and affect us. So first, what is this new normal that we're talking about? What is happening in this year 2020 that is making so many things change, and for us to really feel this impact and have these presentations and have me come and talk to you about this quote unquote new normal? And it's really this big piece of it is obviously this pandemic, this global virus crisis with this COVID-19 virus. And it has changed the way we deal with things on the personal level, at the social level, at the business level, and all this impacts everything that we do and how we do things. So first, of course, we have this new concept, social distancing. And social distancing means that we need to try to stay away from each other, at least 2 meters away. We have to wear face masks. We have to worry about the spread of this virus. And because we don't want is very contagious, and we want to be careful about not spreading it in our community to our friends and family and coworkers. But this also means that for all of us in the business world, where we typically go to work in an office, and we usually work in an office building with a lot of other people, And we don't do that anymore. We're telling everybody, don't come in the office, stay at home, and now you have to work from home to help this preventing the spread of this virus. And then we have situations like the educational institutions, the schools, where we used to send, and I say used to because this is what we're doing now, is we used to send all our children to the schools and in these classrooms, but now we have to social distance. So now we tell all our children, stay home. You need to learn from home, and you need to do all your education online. So now we have this concept that we're doing everything online remotely, if possible. We working from home remotely. We're learning from home remotely. And we are leveraging and using and changing the IT technologies to make this happen. And what this really means is that these applications that we're using are remote. So typically I would go in the office and I would use these applications that my company uses. Maybe it's applications like my email system, or applications like my HR database, or financial information, or procurement. And now I have to access them from home. How do I do that? How do I access my applications remotely? And how am I able to be productive as an employee working from home versus working in the office? How can I have the same or a similar work productivity experience working from home? And for the students, how do they learn from home using these virtual applications? I had a conversation with someone else last week. I was on a webinar, and she was telling me that the schools, the teachers would say, let's have a Zoom or Microsoft Teams or some sort of conference meeting for all the students. And now they have the screen with like 30 little student icons all on the screen, and they're all trying to do things and interact, and it's not working. So the way they learn is changing, and the applications we're using to make that learning remotely is different. And all of this is dependent upon this IT technology that we, meaning me and you, and hopefully everybody on this call, support and build and define for this IT architecture, this IT infrastructure. And ultimately, what matters is this concept of application experience. At Kemp, we call this AX. This application experience is critical because if I'm working from home, or if my children are learning remotely, they need to have an experience that is good, that is reliable, that is quick, that works in a way that they can be efficient and learn as much or do as much work as they did in the previous model. So this new normal is all about doing things remotely and making sure that the resources and applications are available in these remote environments. And we don't know how long this is going to last. It could be, I'm going to be optimistic and let's hope it's gone in sometime next year. But we don't know. And even if it is, I can guarantee you a lot of these things that we've put in place in terms of remote learning, remote work are going to stay. People have found that a lot of this works, and we're going to have more of a hybrid environment. So we have this new normal, and it's impacting our IT, our technology a lot. And to enable this IT technology, at Kemp, we do load balancing, and I'll talk more about load balancing technology. And load balancing for this remote user being the worker, this remote user being the student, being the teacher or educator. It can be any person that is taking advantage of this technology. Load balancing is designed to provide some core functionality. Number one, it's designed to give you availability. In other words, if I'm doing something remotely, that resource, that IT application, whatever it is, needs to be available. Load balancing is a technology that enables to make sure that that application is always available. So I am not concerned that there's going to be downtime where I can't access this application and I can't do my job. Therefore, I have to do something different or do something I don't want to do, like go into the office. The second piece that we want to do is load balancing provides agility. And agility means the ability to change quickly, just like the chameleon in this picture. We want to be able to change these applications and how these applications are delivered quickly, because I can guarantee you 6 months ago, we did not need 90% of our workforce to be connecting to VPN and remote desktop services to get to corporate services. We needed maybe 10%. We needed to change quickly to adapt to increase the amount of availability and to quickly change things to even to make that function available for our user base. Students distance learning. The programs were not in place 6 months ago. Now we have some things in place and we had to be able to input it really quickly and change, because I can guarantee you that the things are going to change from what we have today to what we have 6 months from now at the end of the year. And even next year is going to change again. IT technology and the way we adapt and use it is going to be constantly changing. And the last thing is the scalability. We want to be able to provide those resources for that on-demand need, where distance learning here in the United States, maybe 10% of the students before this year were doing distance learning, maybe 10%. Now it's almost 100%. How do we scale the resources to go from 10% to 100% use? That's a 10 times increase in 6 months. We need some sort of technology to be able to provide that scalability quickly and easily, and load balancing is a great technology for that. So when I talk about load balancing, let me take a step back. Let's explain, what do we mean when we say load balancing? So let's go through some load balancing fundamental concepts here. First, the core piece of load balancing, this thing called server load balancing, or SLB. This is where the load balancer acts as a reverse proxy, managing pools of application servers. So in this diagram, we have these boxes in the middle that are managing the application access from the clients on top of the diagram to the servers on the bottom of the diagram. You can see this VS, this virtual server, and some people call it a VIP or VIP, virtual IP. So virtual IP or virtual server means the same thing. This is an IP address that is hosted on the load balancer, doing the server load balancing to represent the application. So the clients will connect to this virtual server to the load balancer. The load balancer will make the connections to the real servers, or the RS, behind the load balancer where the applications sit. So the load balancer is making that decision between the clients and the application servers to make sure that, number one, the application servers are there and the application is working properly, because the load balancers can be doing what we call application health checks and running algorithms or these mathematical formulas to distribute the traffic across these application servers, so that if an application server fails, the load balancer knows and it shifts the connections to an application server that is working. So server load balancing is critical for that availability. Anytime you need a high availability for an application, you want load balancing technology. So when the servers fail, or you need to scale the resources so you can add more servers to this pool, then the load balancer can provide that resource. The second piece of load balancing technology I want to talk about is global server load balancing, also known as GSLB. Global server load balancing is different because you can see here in the diagram, it's really talking about manipulating DNS. So you can see I have this client on the left-hand side of my diagram. And my client needs to make a connection to the site A or site B on the bottom of my diagram, Las Vegas or New York. So my client is going to make a DNS request to the application, to its local DNS server. It's going to then go through the DNS technology, standard DNS technology, to find out where the DNS server sits. It's going to make a request to this GSLB load balancer, which is acting as the DNS server for this DNS name. In this case, it's called app.acme.com, who's going to give a response and tell the client to go to either site A, Las Vegas, or to site B, New York, based on what is best. And when we say what is best, we get to tell the system what is best. It can be disaster recovery. In other words, always go to site A unless site A fails. If Las Vegas fails, then send them to New York. Or we can do it based on availability, what's best, what we feel is best in terms of resources, in terms of response time, whatever metrics we want to use, we can make that decision and tell this client now to go to one of these sites based on this decision that we're making with DNS. It's dynamic DNS. So it's DNS being response based on what is best at that time for that client. So this is a very flexible technology to provide site availability when you have multiple sites, which starts becoming very important when we start talking about this remote access and remote distance learning, because we want to have the ability to have different sites and different capabilities in terms of disaster recovery and availability across multiple sites. When we build these load balancing technologies in our architecture, we can build them in multiple forms. And at a basic level, number one, we have virtual. We can have it on software. We have software-based load balancing. It can run on hypervisors, such as on VMware, or on HP hardware running KVM hypervisor, and other types of platforms. It can run on bare metal, but we can have software-based load balancers that sit as virtual machines within your existing software-based infrastructure for your software-defined, for your cloud-defined technology. We can also have it in the cloud. So the load balancing technology can be in the public cloud, such as AWS, Amazon, or Microsoft or Azure, or it can sit in a private cloud that you have created yourself, or a third-party company might have created a cloud that it can be put into. And it could also be, of course, hardware, where you can buy your appliance. You can buy that physical piece of hardware that you install in your rack, in your cabinets, and provide that high performance load balancing technology. So load balancing is designed to build these technologies to give you that availability, to give you the agility, and to give you that scalability that you need for this distance learning, for this online, for this work from home technology. And it can be put in all the architectures that you have today, that we have today in our IKT architecture. So let's take a look at some use cases on how we would design this for some scenarios. So the first use cases I have are for different models of remote access. And for remote access, I want to talk about, first, let's talk about VMware Horizon. VMware Horizon is a virtual desktop infrastructure, or VDI technology, to provide remote users access to the computers and resources and applications on remote computers in the office and usually in corporate environments. Here you can see my users on the top of the diagram, and they're going to connect, and they're going to connect to multiple pieces, And the first piece they connect to is they're going to connect to this VMware UAG, Unified Access Gateway. This is the system that's going to make sure that you are authenticated to be allowed to connect to the system. And it's going to be the piece that tells you exactly what resources you have access to. And you can see here, we need load balancers for these UAGs. We want the load balancers for the UAGs. And here I have configured for one site, but if I have multiple sites, I'd create a whole nother vertical stack for the system. The UAGs will connect to your VMware vCenter. If you're doing authentication using Active Directory or Radius, it will connect to the authentication system. And then the UAG will connect to the internal load balancers to the Horizon connection servers, which actually provide the virtual desktop image for the users. So here we have the clients going through two sets of load balancers for two components of the VMware Horizon network diagram, connecting to the Unified Authentication Gateway, the UAG, as well as to the connection servers, which provide the actual virtual desktop technology to the clients for the remote desktop users. So this is one way that a corporation or a company can provide remote access capabilities for their employees to still be effective while working from home, but still provide the high availability and the resources. So when I'm in the office, the network's always working, or at least I hope it is always working. When I'm at home, that may not be true. But providing the load balancing technology can help enhance that to make sure that it's always available. Here's another use case. Here it is with the VPN technology using Microsoft Always On VPN, which is a standard technology for Microsoft to provide VPN access into a network. And here I have two sites. I have site A and site B. I have load balancers connecting to the VPN servers. These are the servers that are going to be doing the authentication, providing the VPN connectivity. And first, what happens is you have the clients on the left-hand side. They're going to connect first to this Geo load balancer that's providing that GSLB DNS service to tell you which site to go to, site A or site B. Connect to the server load balancers to the VPN servers, who will also provide require authentication. And this authentication will be done by these NPS. NPS servers are the network policy servers. So the VPN servers will connect to the network policy servers, which also need to be load balanced for that high availability. And this is something that's important for us to think about when we, again, talking about these technologies for these remote workers, that we need to provide that scalability. Before 2020, the number of clients may have been 5% of the people in the office or working from home, maybe 10%, maybe a little more. But again, the problem is today, 2020, with the social distancing, work from home, the offices being closed, we now have 90% or even 100% of our workers working from home. So you needed to scale, and we need to scale very rapidly and quickly over these past 3 to 6 months to provide that availability. And these load balancers, by being a reverse proxy, provide us the ability to scale quickly and easily and provide the service in a very dynamic model to make it easy for you as the IT administrators to support and build this technology for your customers and for your employees. The third use case I want to show is something that we at Camp have added very recently: support for Citrix virtual apps and desktops. So Citrix virtual apps and desktops is a Citrix VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure technology, that they sell as a package, and it needs load balancers as well. So here again, I have my clients going through the network. And again, I have my geo load balancer in the center that's providing that DNS service. The DNS service is going to provide the manipulation to the two different sites. And then you can see here, I have my load balancers at the left hand of each diagram in each data center, connecting to what we call the storefront servers. The storefront servers are really those authentication servers that we saw in this other diagrams that are providing the access, the authentication, and all the other components so that these clients can access these VDI systems that you can see on the back side, on the right-hand side of these diagrams. So we need to load balance these storefront servers and provide the authentication just like the other systems. And now we can do that quickly and easily and in a cost-effective manner by using the Kemp load balancing technology for the Citrix VDI infrastructure. So again, overall, it's important to provide load balancing technology because it gives, again, that high availability, that scalability to make sure that these applications are available for your remote workers. And let me give you now a use case for an educational application. And in this case, I'm going to use Moodle, but you're going to see that we can extend this model and this use case to very broad examples. Because what we have here for Moodle application, and if you don't know what Moodle is a very popular open source package for providing distance learning. So Moodle is a distance learning application that provides the organization for teachers to create their courses and the content, and then provide a way to deliver it to students for the classes. So technologies like Moodle or Blackboard is another example of a technology are becoming very, very popular this year with this pandemic for the educational institutions. And of course, you have a lot of other applications that you have that are important for your educational institutions, such as your student information systems, whether it be Ellucian or somebody else, and these other applications that are required. But this is something distance learning is becoming very popular. And again, we can see here I have built two sites, my site A and site B, and they can be anywhere in the world. And I have my geo load balancer providing the DNS to provide my high availability for my two sites. And again, it can be disaster recovery or an active configuration. And I have my local load balancers, my server load balancers, load balancing multiple Moodle application servers in each site. It is fairly simple in the diagram because it is fairly simple in this model, and really and truly a lot of the applications that we are going to be providing this high availability and that we want to use for this distance learning and work from home and remote application access is going to be based on the standard concept of load balancing these application servers. And these application servers could be things like Moodle servers. They can be web servers. They could be Blackboard. They could be the VPN or VDI. But ultimately, you need this load balancing technology at the local within the site. And if you have multiple sites, which is highly recommended, obviously, for disaster recovery and high availability, you want that global, that geo load balancing to provide that DNS for that multi-site configuration. So now that we looked at a couple use cases and why load balancing is important in these use cases for this new normal IT architecture, let me explain a little bit about why Kemp and what Kemp is doing for this and why we think Kemp is something you should consider as you look at your load balancing technologies. So Kemp, what we do is, as mentioned, we provide load balancing technology. We design and we focus on making sure that load balancing technology works and is available. So we make these applications highly available. We provide the scalability and the performance for that, for the scaling up and down in terms of resources. We secure and optimize those applications so that when you need to change things quickly in this dynamic environment with this new normal environment, we provide the ability for you to adjust and secure your technology and your applications quickly and easily. And we do it at Kemp because we focus on doing things, focusing on the application. Yes, we're part of the network. Yes, we're part of the server infrastructure, and we're kind of a part of both. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to focus on how the application works across the network. We are an application networking technology. We are platform independent, so we can work again as a virtual software, in cloud environments, and we can work as hardware. And we really want to make it easy for you to purchase, deploy, and use this technology in your environments. And we'll talk a little bit quickly as we go through this presentation about that, how we do that. So one of the things we want to do is we provide application templates because we know not all applications work the same. And we know that it gets complicated configuring and managing the applications to work on your network. So when we load balance all these different applications, we want to provide these templates or libraries or scripts. And there are other terms we could use, but we want to provide these templates to make it easy for you to configure the load balancing that is optimized for these applications. And you can see here examples of the applications, and some of them I mentioned. So you can see Citrix there for Citrix virtual desktops. We have Moodle, we have Exchange, we have Microsoft IIS for your web services. We have Blackboard, which is other educational application. We have Nginx web services. So we build these templates specific for these applications so that we take the expertise that we have to put it into this template so that you do not have to relearn everything all the time. It makes things easy for you as a customer. It makes it easy for the partners. It makes it easy for everybody knowing that everything is already, all the technology and skill is built into the template and makes it a best practice for you. And we have, again, dozens and dozens, a lot, and probably over 100 application templates available today. So if whatever application you need to load balance, we have the expertise built into the tools already for you. We have another component called Kemp 360 Central that provides centralized management of the load balancing and application assets. So we can provide the analytics, the statistics, the data that tell you how is your application performing? Is it performing well? Is it performing not so well? Do we need to increase the number of resources that we have? And we provide the ability to manage the load balancing technology across all your environments. It doesn't matter if it's hardware, if it's in the cloud, if it's software. It doesn't matter if it's at a data center in Singapore. It doesn't matter if it's a data center in Hong Kong. It doesn't matter where it is and how it sits. We can look at it from one central point of view with this application for centralized management. And we can enable automation with this so that we can make things simple. So when you deploy changes, all the changes get deployed automatically and consistently. This tool is really designed for the larger organizations that have multiple load balancers to make it easy for you to manage and implement. And of course, if your organization uses other tools for management and for looking at things, such as SolarWinds or other types of applications like Splunk for log management and pieces like that, we can integrate with those third-party tools as well. And the third piece I want to mention is this thing called Kemp 360 Vision. This is a service that can come with as part of the load balancing package to deliver proactive monitoring of your application resources. So you may not be the expert in understanding how the load balancer works and what it means when it's telling you things. So we have a service that can do proactive monitoring to look at the service, to look at your application load balancers, to see how your application is performing, and to give you notification. We can send you an SMS message. We can send you a Slack message. We can send you an email that says, hi, we notice that your load balancer in your application is running at this threshold, and you may want to consider adding more resources or changing things. And you can define and set these events and thresholds. And this is a service that Kemp can provide to make the management of your load balancing technology so much easier. And this is something that you want to consider because Kemp, we've been around for coming up for over 15 years. So we have the expertise to know what it means when we see the numbers and the statistics coming from your environment, and we can provide that expertise for you. Kemp, we are the #1 rated load balancer on Gartner. So Gartner Peer Insights, which is where the customers can go provide their reviews of technology. We have over 100 customer reviews on Gartner Peer Insights, and we're rated 4.9 out of 5, which is the top load balancer of all the other vendors that are out there. And there's a quote, for example, there. I won't say the entire quote, but it's a nice quote from somebody in the education industry that explains how they're able to really save money and love the simplicity to be able to use our technology in their environment. And of course, it's not just Gartner. Gartner is obviously a very well-known analyst firm and something that we like talking about. But of course, this translates across multiple organizations and review sites like Capterra, Tech Data, and other places where we have really shown the value through the customers providing these quotes and reviews for our technology. So when we talk about, and closing up here, when we talk about delivering this application experience for today's new normal, really what we all want to focus on is this load balancing technology to give us, again, that availability, that agility, ability to change quickly and easily, and that scalability, to be able to ramp up and down for these changing conditions, which are going to continue to change, because this new normal is not something that we've changed and this is it and we're good for the next 5 years. I can guarantee it's going to change a few months from now, and it's going to change again, and it's going to change again. It's going to be constantly changing. So this new normal, #1, we need to make it simple. We need to make it simple for our IT organizations to deploy and to manage. Because if you're constantly making these changes, we cannot make it complicated. It cannot be complicated, because if it's complicated, we are going to make mistakes. So we need to make it simple for you. And we need to make it simple through the use of templates. We need to make it simple by focusing on the load balancing technology and what we're trying to get out of it. We want to make it simple for the management by providing the centralized management. And we want to make it simple by providing this service with this 360 vision to give you proactive monitoring for your environment. Second, we want to make it flexible. We know that not everybody purchases the same way. Some people might want to have licenses based on subscription, so you can pay every year or pay every month. Other people want to have licenses based on the throughput. So you want to buy a license for a product that does a certain amount of traffic. Or other people might want to buy the product, hardware, and just buy it outright. And then there's even an option where you can do things like you can provide pooled licensing. So you have a license of up to so much capacity, but now I can break it up into different units based on that capacity. And something unique at Kemp, we actually have something called metered licensing, where our licensing is not based upon how many units you want to buy, but the actual usage of the load balancing technology, and you get billed based on how much the load balancing technology is used. Similar to your electric meter on your house or the gas that you put in your car. You only pay for the gas that you're actually using. You're not paying for gas that you don't use. So we want to make sure to provide a flexible as options as types of options that we can for providing the licensing of this technology for you to use. Value. By focusing on load balancing technology and the core of load balancing technology that we talk about today, there is a huge cost to value for when we compare against competitors like F5 and Citrix, where we can give you 4 times the cost or performance or more for the same cost. And this is something that's important because we can focus on the core technology. A lot of other vendors will talk about a lot of other functions, but really and truly, most of the use cases that you need load balancing for, we discussed about today in this presentation. And that's what we want to focus on the value. And last, support. Kemp, again, we've been around for 15 years, over 15 years, and our customer support has been extremely good. We have a 98% plus, I think it is 99% satisfaction rating now from our customers. When you call for help configuring or help understanding or help with a problem to our Kemp support staff, we provide exceptional service at the first level because we have our engineers on the line talking to you immediately when you have a problem. So through these things and providing the simple, being flexible, providing the value and giving you the support, we believe that the Kemp technology is really designed to fit into this new normal environment for this application experience that we want today. So at this point, I want to kind of close off what I'm talking about and open things up. Chris, do you want to check and see how things are going in terms of what's next?
Yeah, thank you so much, Frank. What a beautiful presentation. Sekarang mungkin kita langsung masuk ke tanya jawab. Semisal ada pertanyaan, mungkin bisa open mic atau langsung disampaikan. Atau semisal bisa juga dimasukkan ke chat box. Nanti akan saya bantu jawab, atau mungkin kalau saya nggak bisa jawab, saya bisa bantu sampaikan ke Frank untuk bisa jawab seperti itu, Pak atau Ibu. Oke. Oh ya, ada yang hands up, Pak Sofyan Sudianto.
Yes. Hello, Frank. My name is Sofyan.
Hello.
Yes, nice to hear your voice now. My name is Sofyan from Roka, Indonesia. Actually, that way you're presenting is very interesting for me because that we are already using all of the application. We're using VDI, we're using Citrix. That is new knowledge for me. I have one question for you. In order to implement this, how easy this is? How about the registration? How about the subscription, or about the? Actually, you make this as simple, right? So meaning, how the simple is it? Is it as simple as that, or simple 1, 2, 3, or simple as that? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question, and in terms of easy, I've been in this load balancing industry for 20 years now, dealing with load balancing technology with many vendors. I've worked for many of the vendors that we've talked about in this presentation, and it's very interesting when being at Kemp, because when I say simple, it's amazing, really and truly, it is amazing how simple it actually is. So when I give if I give an environment like one of these diagrams that we showed, and we get the IP addresses and other pieces to somebody who does not know load balancing technology, now if I give them our documentation and give them our templates, I can almost guarantee you within half a day, they will have that system configured and up and running with no prior knowledge about load balancing technology. The simplicity is crucial for us because we know it is not something that is very common in the IT industry for people to know this technology. And I'm not saying it's going to be something where you can just click button, or turn a key in your car and all of a sudden it starts. There are some things you have to do, but we try to eliminate as much of the complexity as possible. So configuring any of these environments, I'm just going to use, for example, I used to work at F5 Networks back in the days. And configuring F5 is very complicated. It takes a lot of time and effort, and it requires some serious training to be able to configure the F5 product to do a lot of the things that I showed as examples in the presentation, where it could take a couple days, some extra training, some support assistance, where with Kemp, again, it's going to take maybe a couple hours. So I'm not going to tell you it's so simple that anybody can do it, with just flipping a couple buttons, but it is much, much easier than you're going to see from the other vendors. And it's much, much easier for you to manage and support from the start. And here's something else I'll recommend and suggest is, if you go to our Kemp website, you can see on the slide right now, kemp.ax, you can download a free trial software version of our software, and you can try and you can play with it yourself for 30 days with full support. So you can see how it works and you can see how easy it is. And again, I have no customers that really have complained that, oh, this is hard to learn, or I need extra help, or I need things to do this. With the simplicity of our software and the use of our templates, we have made this extremely easy for our customers to implement and manage.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Sofyan, for the question, and also Frank for the answer. My suggestion is, after this, maybe we can, Pak Sofyan can contact to the PCMan or to the representative of CAM in PCMan, and we can set some schedule for demo or POC to your infrastructure. There will be no problem with that. And I also have some raise. Ada juga dari Pak Adi Saputra mungkin.
Yeah, hello, Chris and Frank.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Adi. I'm working at local university in Indonesia. So before pandemic, we already have Moodle e-learning system in our university. And after pandemic, our application, sometimes the client cannot access the application. So if we want to use this CAM technology, do we need to upgrade our Moodle? For your information, we're using Moodle version 2.8. So if you're using CAM, do we need to upgrade to Moodle, the new version, or not? Thank you.
Good questions. So the good thing is that Moodle application server, you do not need to upgrade. What you do need to do is you need to put the load balancer, like I showed in the diagram, in front of your Moodle servers, and now the load balancer will then manage the Moodle servers behind it. And this gives you, number one, it gives you the availability so that the load balancer will check the status of those Moodle servers. So the clients will only go to the best suited Moodle server. And if there is a problem with the Moodle server because it goes down because of failure or a maintenance mode or something like that, it will automatically detect it and you do not have to do anything. The other really great thing is, if your Moodle servers start become overwhelmed because there's too many users trying to connect to the systems, once you have the load balancer in place, you can make changes by adding more servers, or make changes by increasing the hardware performance of individual servers, or adding more components to increase the amount of Moodle availability to your customers without them knowing that you even did anything. That's the big advantage that they're using the load balancer as a reverse proxy. So the quick answer is you do not need to change your Moodle server software version. All you need to do is take load balancers and put it in front of your Moodle servers, a little configuration changes in the network to make it available. And then you have a lot more flexibility to provide the Moodle resources for your students. So this is a great use case. And again, going to this new normal is a perfect example of how we want to go from where you had it before, but you weren't using it much, but now everybody needs to use it and you had to make changes to support those students. So perfect example where you want load balancers in your environment.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Frank, I have another question. Does Camp 360 Vision also cover security incident, such as you give the customer alerts on certain hacking or DDoS attack and provide help or solution on what action needs to be taken?
It can.
Camp 360 Vision also cover security incident? Does it?
Some of the security technologies that Kemp has. So some of the things that I did not talk about in this presentation is Kemp has the ability, for example, to act as a web application firewall or a WAF. If you turn on that feature of the Kemp product to use the web application firewall, you can utilize the Kemp 360 Vision to collect information on what's going on in terms of some of the security incidents, depending upon how you configure the Kemp in terms of what type of security. And the other piece that it can help you with also is the authentication. So for example, in this VDI environment, there's a lot of authentication going on to Active Directory or to Radius servers or to LDAP, or maybe you're using two-factor authentication like RSA tokens. If Kemp is involved in that process and managing that process, Kemp can provide alerts for some of that information as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, any more question? Kalau sudah tidak ada, mungkin kita bisa tutup untuk presentasi kali ini. Saya ucapkan terima kasih dan sebelumnya saya hand over dulu ke Pak Suharno untuk closingnya. Silakan Pak Suharno.
Oke, terima kasih banyak Pak Andi Christian ya. Thank you very much for Mr. Frank Yu for the good presentation today.
Thank you, everybody at PCMan. Definitely thank you for everybody for listening to me talk and explain all this information. I appreciate your time.
Oke, thank you. Oke, buat Bapak Ibu sekalian, bila sudah tidak ada pertanyaan lagi, atau dari Bapak Ibu sekalian mungkin ada yang masih punya satu pertanyaan atau pengen mengadakan satu sesi khusus, bisa nanti kita adakan lagi khusus sesinya ya, nanti bisa hubungin saja ke PCMan langsung. Buat Bapak Ibu sekalian yang udah join sama tim sales kita, nanti bisa langsung menghubungi aja ya. Oke. Satu lagi buat Bapak Adi Saputra tadi, mohon maaf untuk terima kasih pertanyaannya, bisa diinformasikan ya Pak untuk asal company-nya Pak? Gimana?
Saya dari Universitas Yahkuala dari Aceh.
Oh gitu ya, oke. Terima kasih banyak Pak Adi. Oke, terima kasih banyak buat Bapak Ibu sekalian. Bila sudah tidak ada lagi pertanyaan, saya akhiri ya presentasi kita hari ini. Terima kasih banyak yang sudah pada join. Mohon untuk bisa mengirimkan feedback formnya kembali ya Bapak Ibu sekalian sebelum kita selesai sesi ini. Untuk kita kirimkan materi presentasi hasil Q&A kita pada pagi ini ya. Mohon kesediaannya Bapak Ibu sekalian untuk mengisi feedback form kita yang seperti tertera pada layar Bapak Ibu sekalian. Nanti dibantu juga nih untuk linknya di chatbox-nya ya. Mohon kesediaannya untuk mengisikan feedback form selama 3 menit ya Bapak Ibu sekalian. Terima kasih.